Phoenix home prices are dropping. Huge issues with the US housing market. The lock-in effect affecting the American dream. What even is this lock-in effect? Is the media using these fear-mongering tactics, or is there actually some truth behind their claims? Today, we're going to investigate these claims, look at some data, so ultimately you can decide if these articles actually have some valid points or they just pulling some shenanigans on us. I'm Courtney Strzelczyk, your local Phoenix realtor, here to share all things Phoenix. And if you have any questions about buying, selling, or relocating, reach out. In this recent article from the Phoenix Business Journal, and in this article, they highlighted that the home prices in the Phoenix Valley area saw a 6.1% drop in the year-over-year sales price. And this was based on data from the Case-Shiller Index. But then again, if you know anyone in the real estate world, you probably have heard that we're really low in inventory, we're getting multiple offers on a lot of homes, and home prices are driving up. But if real estate home prices are driving up and then the Phoenix Business Journal is saying there's a 6.1% drop, who's right here? What's going on? Well, the truth is both of these points are actually right. They're both valid, and I'm going to explain this to you in a little more detail. Now, typically the Case-Shiller Index is usually labeled as this gold standard of housing data. And although the Case-Shiller Index is a great source of data, it's not necessarily showing data of what is going on in the market today. It looks at more historical trends. So for example, when Case-Shiller Index came out with data at the end of June, that data was actually based on data collected 2 months prior. Data collected in April. And then the second thing to know is when they are collecting data on the median sales price, they're looking at a 3-month average. So they're looking at April, March, and February, and looking at the average of those 3 months. And further, since they are looking at year over year, they are then taking that 3-month average of February, March, April 2023, and then comparing it to February, March, April, the average of those months in 2022. And as some of you probably know, last February, March, April, the home prices were actually at a record high for the Phoenix Valley area. And then when mortgage rates increased around May, we saw a drop in home prices. And since the beginning of the year, we've kind of been playing catch up. Home prices have consistently gone up, but when you compare it to the spring of last year when home prices were astronomically high, we're going to see a difference. And that's how the Case-Shiller Index came up with this 6.1% drop. So this is really reflective of what happened a year ago, not necessarily reflective of what's going on today. So where are we today? Well, let's take a look at supply and demand. So first, we're gonna take a look at our market index. So this actually takes into consider the balance of supply and demand, and it formulates a number basically indicating, are we in a buyer's market, a neutral market, or a seller's market? So the green indicates that we are in a seller's market. That yellow area is a neutral market, and that's between about a 90 and 110. And then below that is considered a buyer's market. And today in the Phoenix greater area, we are currently in a seller's market with a market index score of 161.9. But when we look at demand specifically, we can see that demand is actually pretty low. It's in that red area with a score of 79.2. But the kicker is even though demand is really low, supply is just that much lower, and that is what's pushing us into a competitive seller's market. Right now, our supply is 48.9, so it's really low. Now, the market index does vary between different suburbs and cities in the Phoenix greater area, but by and large, pretty much everywhere in the Phoenix area is in a seller's market. The one exception is Buckeye, and you can see that their market index score here was 109.3. So as I mentioned before, above 110 is a seller's market, so it's pretty much in a seller's market. And then you can see at the top of the list here, for example, Chandler, we have some that are super competitive markets. And Chandler's market index score is 331.7. So I primarily serve the East Valley area, and I will say as a realtor with boots on the ground, it is really competitive. We are seeing multiple offers, particularly in areas like Chandler and Gilbert. However, as we enter towards the later part of the summer, it is pretty typical for us to see a little bit of slowdown. You know, it's getting hot out, kids are going back to school. We typically don't have as hot of a market in the late summer and the fall as we do in the springtime. Now, a slowdown in the market doesn't necessarily mean home prices are going to drop, but we could anticipate seeing that the rate of which home prices are increasing could slow down, or we could see the market index score drop down a little bit. Now, the other thing that the media has been really highlighting lately is what they call the lock-in effect. And the lock-in effect is basically when people are living in their home, but they can't afford to upgrade to a newer home just because they have such a low interest rate, their mortgage or their monthly payments are really, really low. And if they were to buy another house or move, they are trading that really low interest rate of maybe even 2.5% to 3% for a 6.5%, 7% mortgage rate. And because a lot of these homeowners have such a good deal and such a low monthly payment, it's really hard to justify for them to go buy a new house with a monthly payment that would be astronomically higher. This is the lock-in effect. 90% of homeowners currently in the United States have a rate lower than 6% on their mortgage. So we have these articles from Fortune and Market Watch really highlighting this locked-in effect and attributing it to the low inventory issues that we're having and subsequently the affordability issues that we're having in the United States. But my girl Tina Tambor, our local Phoenix housing analyst for the Cromford Report, actually presented a very interesting perspective to this lock-in effect. So we're at a place where current homeowners have record amount of equity in their home, and then they don't want to move or they can't move just because they have such an affordable monthly payment. So economically speaking, let's summarize this. So we have stable homeowners, affordable monthly payments, minimal risk of foreclosure. All these things lead to a very stable housing market. So maybe it's time to look at the glass half full. So yes, we can't ignore the challenge that people have in not being able to upgrade their home, but this is a much better issue to have economically speaking than, let's say, a foreclosure crisis. These homeowners own a home, they have built a tremendous amount of equity over the past handful of years. They have a low monthly payment. I would say they came out as winners. And yes, the lock-in effect for sure plays a role in having low inventory, but something to keep in mind is because that person selling their home is typically going to buy another house. So yes, you're increasing supply, but you're also increasing demand. But I don't want to mitigate the affordability issue that we're actually experiencing in Phoenix. But the true battles of affordability, sure, it's impacting current homeowners, but the true victims are first-time home buyers and people that are currently renting. But if you are thinking of buying a home and you are a first-time home buyer, I don't want you to be discouraged. I want you to think about this. Most of the current homeowners that have these record low interest rates of 2.5% to 3%, most of those homeowners did not buy their home with that interest rate. They had a much higher interest rate and then refinanced their home to get that lower interest rate. There are many ebbs and flows with real estate, and even if you buy a home today with a higher interest rate, there is a high chance that you're going to be able to refinance into a lower interest rate in the foreseeable future. Now, I don't have a crystal ball and I never try to predict the future, but a lot of the economists and the mortgage experts are anticipating there to be some sort of drop down the road. Now, it's probably not going to be the 2.5% that we saw a couple years ago, but they are expecting it to be lower than what it is today. Now, to summarize, if you are thinking about buying a home, the best advice I can give to you as a realtor is it's really impossible to time the market. It's very difficult. And I really do believe in this phrase. You probably have heard it before, but time in the market is going to be more important than timing the market. And I think a perfect example of that is looking at the people that bought, 3 to 10 years ago. They have built so much equity, and it's not because they timed the market perfectly, it's because they've been in the market for an extended period of time and have been able to build wealth through equity. So keep in mind, even though that interest rate and that monthly payment when you first buy a home may not be ideal, it's going to look prettier and more attractive the longer you live in that house. And if you have any questions about buying or selling your home, or maybe specific questions about the zip code that you live in or the city that you live in, don't hesitate to reach out. My contact information is below. And again, thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a fantastic day.